here. As you guys know, okay, every single week we try our best to bring you a live session that is very informative and very helpful for you and your career. And every single time we try, okay, our guest is the expert in the field. And this time around, we have Saba Kalsoom. So she's the Saba. Before I even get excited on the topic, and before we get into it, I would want you to give your introduction, everything, your background, and how did you get into this. So please just take the lead from here.
Thank you so much, Soha, for the kind introduction and getting towards the topic. Hi, everyone. This is Saba Kalsoom here. I am currently working as Programs Ecosystem Lead at Invest to Innovate. I2I is a startup accelerator with a sister concern, I2I Ventures, which is a VC that invests in startups. We have trained hundreds of startups and different entrepreneurial support organizations across Pakistan as well as MENA region over the last few years through projects like like we raised with World Bank, collaborations with HEC, Meta, Siemens Business, and currently we have recently launched I2I Scale. A bit about what I do and how did I come to it. Basically, I grew up in a diverse sort of an family environment because my father was in army, and growing up in such an environment, it was a bit disciplined in a way that I was always a very grades oriented kid, and focusing on grades throughout my life. I lacked that self awareness and exposure to practical life, which led me to choose electrical engineering at NAST back in 2016, considering it was the top merit degree back then. And getting into it in second semester, though I was getting the grades I aimed at, I was not really fascinated with something that I was doing there. I've always thought that I need to find out what exactly I want to do for life. And doing that, I started exploring. I visited all the organizations that I felt were related to electrical engineering, like WAPDA, like NTDC. And doing that, I realized that this is not something I want to do for like 5 years from now. In order to, in university life, I was active with sports and other extracurricular activities, be it student bodies of all sorts. And that connected me to multiple seniors and even alumni body. And knowing them and getting connected to them, I experienced virtual reality as final year project of a very good friend, now senior back then. And I was fascinated by the technology, and I was already thinking about applications it could have. And doing that research, since I was already considering education and self-awareness as a problem in the education sector, I researched around it and realized that developed market was already far ahead and was doing that. So we decided to build something similar. It led to Mind, which was a virtual reality-driven edtech startup. We got incubated at National Incubation Center in Islamabad. Then we applied for multiple global competitions like MIT Solve, like Mohammed bin Rashid Initiative for Global Prosperity, which is backed by MIT and Cambridge in UAE. And to our surprise, we were runner-ups for both, and we also got a good grant of 1.65 million PKR out of it. And that was something that started that entrepreneurship sort of a journey in my career while I was still a student. I Since I had that seed of exploration and experimentation in me, I also freelanced a bit while by working part time with people like Saad Hamid, who was a community manager at Google back then, and also explored creative writing. I was always good with writing skills, so did some writing gigs here and there. On doing that, I realized that it is in the 4 years journey of student life, especially in undergrad, it's really, really important to experiment with multiple skill sets, with multiple areas of life and fields. And it gives you that edge to kind of understand how different skill set work, what do you end up doing in life. And while graduating, I got into Draper University's entrepreneurship program. Since I am a 2020 grad, so I'm a COVID grad. And because of that, our program at Draper University was also virtual. However, that really connected me to some international incubators and accelerators, and that was something that I wanted to now switch to. And then I worked with an accelerator to help startups scale. So that brings me to the scaling part of the startups. And I was someone who has never lived on her own completely, but I got reached out by Colabs to join them as community and partnerships lead back then. And I moved to Lahore for 2 years, worked with Colabs, led their startup ecosystem initiatives, was promoted to growth lead in a period of 6 months, and also helped them actively with the investment of $3 million that we raised. And that basically intrigued my interest more towards VCs, VC culture, the different types of financing, debt financing, grant financing, and I started exploring the contrast and the overlap of tech community and impact, which is also the topic for today. Like how
Yeah.
you can actually combine the tech part and the community part and bring it together to create that impact. And that was something that in my mind startups were really doing well in Pakistan now. After 2016 we have seen the boom in the startup ecosystem of Pakistan. I hosted Web3 Summit with Binance at Collabs, and I was really interested to see how the technology that I was interested back then in 2016-17, which people never talked about. Back then in 2016-17, you would never not see a lot of people talk about virtual reality, Web3. You would not talk about other technologies that were actually helpful back then. But now it was the talk of the town, and now everybody started talking about, okay, Vision Pro. Now Apple was doing something, Oculus was coming up, and now that led my interest to join Facet. I joined Facet, which is a Web3 firm based out of UAE, with its with operating in multiple regions of MENA, and work with them as director ecosystem and partnerships. I was awarded HBLPSL Hamare Heroes in season 8, and also got selected for Tech Women program, which is supported by State Department of US. And but to my surprise, the company scaled down. And since Web3 is a very volatile market, that also taught me the concept of market volatility. That also taught me a lot about regulations. So learned a lot in that role, and then I moved on to working with Invest to Innovate back in November. This decision was a lot after a lot of reflections, considering reflecting back on my career and journey and identity crisis that we all youngsters
Yes.
have in our early 20s. That what exactly do we want to do in life? And I realized that startups was my thing, and I
Yeah.
always wanted to, like, after experiencing multiple startups, I want to work in the broader startup ecosystem where I'm able to help startups grow and create that impact where you have tangible numbers that, okay, these are this is we'll talk about the impact later, but what exactly impact these startups create in the startup community and generally across
Yeah.
different countries in the globe. So this is
Yeah.
particularly a bit about the journey that I had. It's very diverse. I see it,
Yeah.
but it always comes with a reason. There is a solid reason behind each move that I made in my career. It's a conscious, intentional decision that I've taken throughout.
Yes. Again, so we're very, very well put together, and also we kind of like are able to see the exact pipeline on how did you actually branch out to, really helping with scaling startups, helping them reach their full potential. Also, everyone at LinkedIn who just joined, I would want you guys to know, okay, today's topic is about tech community and impact and helping startups scale into emerging markets. And also we have Saba Kalsoom. She is a programs and ecosystem lead at I2I. There was a bit of lag in LinkedIn, so we're back, and everybody is here. Saba, you told us about your journey and how you branched out to what you're doing right now. Acha, since most of our audience is young grads, and so they're really just figuring out what they should do next, right? So maybe if they should get a job or anything, and having investing 4 years of your life into a degree, it can be quite intimidating to get into something that is very different. So you told us about why you chose this path and everything, But while you were doing that, did you ever encounter this question about, okay, so what is the use of your degree, right? Why, or have you ever been asked about that? So you did engineering and now you're helping startups, and it's so different. But for you, it's like interconnected. For you, you've found your way into this, right? So you found your way into how we can leverage from tech and really help the startups to scale into emerging markets. But how was it for you to take this unconventional path?
Very interesting question. So I get asked this question quite a lot. Like whenever someone comes to know about my educational background, the first question is, okay, but has your degree gone to waste? Have you wasted those 4 years? So yeah, it's a question that I get asked often, and the answer is no. The degree has never gone to waste. I see it very very connected in a way that I feel in your career, what helps you a lot is the talent stack that you build over years. It's never one skill set that helps you grow in life. And while doing a degree in electrical engineering, I chose artificial intelligence as my specialization in the final year. And while doing that, I was already building a startup for the last 2 to 3 years. And working on that, I was connecting to a lot of mentors, coaches in the ecosystem, different incubators, accelerators. I was trying to understand the market that each sector has, especially the education sector and tech sector that I was working at. And I feel that the diverse sort of backgrounds always gives you an edge over someone that comes from a single skill set background. So when students come to me that, okay, what should we do in our 4 years of undergrad, I feel that 4 years of your undergrad is a perfect opportunity for you get that early exposure to start working. I see a lot of students who are now getting into freelancing, who are now getting into other sort of areas where it helps them not only with monetary sort of benefit, but it also helps you explore the market, with that market research that is called in the startup ecosystem. It helps you understand what works in the startup in generally your career and what does not work, but also helps you explore your own self, because I feel be it your personal or professional life, self awareness is the first thing that you need to do, and that comes with a lot of experimentation and exploration. And once you obviously you can't tell the taste of something unless you have tasted it. So you can't know that a skill set would work for you or this particular career path is something of your interest until and unless you have really worked through it. For example, if there is a buzzword AI, now you want, like, okay, since AI is the buzzword, I want to be an AI engineer or I want to work in AI. But once you start working on AI, a lot of students come to me and they're like, this is not something they want to do. So just because it was the buzzword, just because you saw a few applications of it, just because it seemed cool, but when you got into it and you had to really sit down and code or build applications for it, it might not be something that you would want to do in life, or it might be something that you really want to do in life. So it is up to a person. So whenever someone comes to me that, okay, these are the two areas of my career, these are two options, what should I do? I never tell them that leave a for B or leave B for A. I always tell them explore. Talk to people 5 years from now who are in both areas of life. See the roadmap that they followed. See what they did. Do those projects. Get into something for free. Build some a dummy portfolio sort of a project, and see if it's something that intrigues you. If something that does not feel like work to you. Is it something that is more like a play for you, and you as a person want to be known like that. That is something that will tell you that you should choose A or B. So right mentors will always guide you with the roadmap. Right mentors will always tell you what works in what way. But at the end of the day, you have to figure it out. You can't blame someone else 2 3 years from now that you told me that AI was something they should do. So always get
Yeah.
into something, play with your hands, just get into the dirt, and that will teach you more than anything else.
Yes. I feel like, even before starting our live, we were talking about it, okay, how you should be ready to put yourself out there. Because, again, as you stated, if you don't taste anything, you wouldn't really know how it tastes. And even, no matter if it's the tech industry, if you're, getting into a totally different ecosystem, even if it's marketing, as long as you know how to sell yourself, as long as you're diversifying yourself, your skill set, you will find yourself useful somewhere. And if you fear that this is something that will probably not work out for you in the future or anything, then you wouldn't ever know. And until unless you play all your cards, you really never know which one will work out for you. So I feel like it's very interesting, and it's very, also inspiring how you found yourself, and how you found your way into this startup ecosystem. Acha, as you were telling, I had this question that came into my mind. So a few lives back, I had a live with Hafsa Zahir. So she is also, a startup consultant in San Francisco, and so she told me about the ecosystem and how it works in San Francisco, as it's the hub of startups, basically. So I would also want you to ask from you, and since you've told me you also deal with a lot of international clients and a lot of international startups as well, when you were getting into this, how did you even figure out what the startup ecosystem is? How did you, so it can be very intimidating, right? How did you figure yourself way around it? And also, since you deal with a lot of, international and national clients, how do you differentiate between these ecosystems and work your way around it, help them scale?
Okay. So while working in Pakistan startup ecosystem and during my undergrad, I obviously was not aware of how the international startup ecosystem looked like. And but while doing the research that I started with, especially for my own startup, and I realized that the international startup ecosystem was far ahead. And
Mm.
I started reading reports on how Pakistan startup ecosystem was different. I too, I'll give it full marks for the final year reports, that annual reports that we release alongside quarterly reports for the startups, that shows that okay, this is the current state of Pakistan startup ecosystem. I compared it to multiple other markets in over the globe, especially US, Europe. Now MENA and Saudi definitely has popped up over the last few years. These markets, how they are different, and over the last few years, the difference I saw was that Pakistan startup ecosystem was nascent. It's quite early stage, but the evolution has been so rapid, especially with COVID. It accelerated at a speed that we never imagined it would. And I personally feel that, considering our economic and geopolitical uncertainties and other issues that our country has, we sometimes fall under the headlines that we see, and we do not see the opportunity and potential it has otherwise. And we compare it to Brazil, who has less resources or has more economic uncertainties, and yet they got far ahead when it comes to the ecosystem that they have built over years. Now, coming back to Pakistan, I feel the potential that we have is immense, and with that potential, we have seen that the technology boom, the startup ecosystem has leapfrogged, and it will even leapfrog with more sort of speed in upcoming few years, because of the things that are getting online. So we have the best use of our youth, of our mobile penetration, the population that we have. It's the potential that we see in numbers is huge. So I think it's more about what comes online in a few years, and that is the difference that our market in Pakistan will generally create. And that is something that I am really hopeful for and optimistic about, and especially with startups who are now scaling into, for example, MENA and Saudi regions, where now the market is saturating. So that is something that our current focus at even I2I is.
Perfect. Ashra, since I really hope people have jotted down exactly international and national startups, and really figured their way around in the difference. Ashra, now since we are talking and we're getting into the conversation, and so earlier you mentioned about how you branched out to startup ecosystem, and you talked about technology, right? So, as a person that might not be as much educated about startups, you might think you have an idea and you probably pitch it, or you start working around it, and eventually you hope that your startup will work out. Your product will be, loved by the market, and it will be something big. You know that you will put in hard efforts, but that is as much or as far you've thought about it, right? But since you have observed like so many startups, right? And since you know how to scale them, how to make their presence in different markets, what do you think, or what technological advancement have come out so far in this age that actually can help and the startups should leverage from to grow, and also something that people should be educated on, okay, how technology can go hand in hand with your startup and help you get into your full potential, because I feel like people really don't think about that. And even if you have some startup that is not even related to probably tech itself, but I feel like tech has a lot of role to play.
I think that's a very relevant question. And since we are talking about technology, so coming back from technology, when you are doing, especially your degrees in any areas of technology, be it software engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, you see that over the course of years, technology, the applications, the kind of applications that technology has in real life. And
Hmm.
since I was doing a startup alongside, I realized that technology is very, very key and pivotal, and plays a very pivotal role when it comes to like not only streamlining operations but creating efficient processes. Because
Hmm.
once when we are working in some company or working or building our own startup, we might be feeling that okay, that right, the talent that we are hiring, the kind of people that we are hiring, obviously they have to be the right fit for the roles that you are hiring them for. But
Hmm.
sometimes it creates that sort of traditional people centric approach where
Hmm.
we're only focusing on okay, this person A has to do, for example, marketing, this person B has to do HR. But we we don't realize that have we built those processes, or are we building those processes and leveraging technology in a way that it is facilitating that people centric approach. Because I personally feel that systems and processes have an edge over people, and as startup owners we really need to focus on building those processes instead of focusing on people. Those processes should help you streamline your operation in a way that those people are doing their job really well. So I think technology can not only help you automate your repetitive tasks where there has been like a lot of manual intervention. There could you could use like CRMs, you could use like even for financial transactions, there are accounting softwares out there. So just integrating small softwares and automations into your manual repetitive tasks, it eases a lot, and it replaces that need of a people centric approach by facilitating it, and even reduces the cost and free up
Hmm.
your employees' time to focus on things that are more of high in value. Alongside that, I feel that with data analytics and these sort of areas coming up, now a decision making has turned into more data driven decision making. And
Hmm.
I feel that now startups are using technology to not only collect and that analyze that data, and then take those decisions through that amount of data. So business intelligence tools, they really help in taking those sort of decisions. And because while doing a startup, while doing your market research, there is a need for actually seeing that what are the local needs that are not met. So even to
Hmm.
create context of cultural fit, that okay, what culture you are solving a problem for, that
Hmm.
data collection and analyzing that data, it really helps. And technology has really been put to use in order to leverage that data. And I think
Hmm.
alongside that, there are collaboration tools out there, definitely. Even right now, like we are doing this live on StreamYard. So
True. Yeah. Exactly.
technology is leveraging us do that, right? You're based in Lahore, I'm based in Islamabad. So
Yeah.
collaboration tools out there. We
Yeah.
use for example, we use Slack for like, for example, collaborations. We use Notion for like as a project management software. So these video conferencing platforms, real time collaboration, knowledge sharing, access to resources, that's being done through these sort of platforms. That's really important that technology has done. So I feel overall, process optimization, scalability, the use of right resources gives
Yes.
you that broader market access, and technology has done that.
Yes. And if I even, since you're so expert in this field and since you have so much research on that, so even from a layman's perspective, I feel like, even if you have a startup that is about food, and again, as you mentioned, again, if your startup is a cultural fit, technology will help you get that information, So, for example, if you are probably introducing something Korean or Chinese or something, then maybe use that technology to understand कि, अच्छा, what are the untapped markets that I can actually hit and make my startup successful there. And then again, with marketing and everything, I feel like that can be put out there. So really, I think a lot of people, and I have, a lot of talented individuals that really, really want to do something. And especially I, as somebody that is still, studying and everything, I see so many ideas around me and so much potential around me, but I feel like there's a process and there is technologies out there that can be leveraged from to get to your fullest potential. And I feel like some people like you can really educate people on this, really help them. And I feel like that is what you're doing perfectly at I2I. Acha, I really want to get into the success story of I2I, but I feel like इससे पहले one question that is very important is community building, ठीक है? Again, I feel like we don't talk about community building too much when we mention startups. So I really want to understand what is the function of community building and why should people in this ecosystem really consider it for their benefit and for the benefit of others.
Okay. So coming from like as a student, I was a Google Developer Student Club lead as well, and that really taught me that how community really helps, how connecting with even one person and building that relationship with that person really helps. I feel communities have played a major role in the boom of the startup ecosystem. For example, over the course of few years, how NICs have really helped startups, how um, uh, there are, I think, three major things that these communities do, especially these spaces like NICs have done: networking events, mentorship programs, collaborative workspaces, where, like, okay, if there is a need for a resource, you can just look for that person in the community, and the next person will give you the skill set that you really need. So, right. So access to resources, knowledge sharing, and the thing that I talked about, that we are leveraging technology for, it all comes down back to people. So technology can only help you leverage that. You At the end of the day, it is about people. uh, if for example, we are talking right now, we are sharing that knowledge that we have, and that, I think, community building has at its core. So feel generally why we feel that startups do not really focus on community building. Over the course of years, we have seen startups now focus on that. So for example, you are from marketing background, you would know it better than me, that we have shifted the marketing need at first. For example, when there was only radio, we would use
Yes.
to, because you market what where the audience is, right?
Yeah.
So when there was the era of radio, we would market there, but when the TV came, it shifted there. Then when the
Yeah.
boom of social media happened, now everyone is going there. But I feel now we have, like, also marketing has gone towards growth, performance marketing, influencer
Yeah.
marketing, because now we are saying that, okay, if there is one person who we can relate to in terms
Yeah.
of their interest, in terms of their likes and dislikes, I would rather buy that thing instead of, if an influencer that I like post about it, instead of I seeing an ad for it, because we all hate ads. So I feel community building, it helps you to connect to people in a deeper sense. And
Yeah.
once you know that, okay, their likes, their dislikes, you can connect to that person in a relatable manner, that helps you to achieve your goals in a more
Yeah.
appropriate manner. That is what startups really need to focus on. So if you have a
Mhm.
common vision to aim for, and you have that culture of community engagement inside your startup, but then externally as well, that's why I feel like it is not one organization's role to help Pakistan's startup ecosystem grow. It is a collaborative effort. All the entrepreneur support organizations, incubators, accelerators, startups, investors, industry partners, corporates, academia, government, they all have to come together. And even at I2I, this is what our aim is, that we have to have an ecosystem integrated community instead of like one organization going towards that.
Yeah. Again, I feel like that is a very valid point. Community building is very important, not just only in terms of, having community for the sake of community. I feel like really just benefiting from it, really just, knowing that there are people out there that are, not necessarily for the same goal, but exist on the same wavelength as you. And, you can benefit from them, you can provide them with the benefit. And again, if there is one, entity or one body that is like actively working on, really helping startups get to their full potential, it can get relatively easier instead of, trying to survive on your own. And I feel like I2I is perfectly doing that, and that perfectly transition us to our next question, that is about how I2I has helped, startups, and if you would want us to know some success stories that, are present out there and are thriving.
Sure. So at I2I, since I initially mentioned that Invest to Innovate is a startup accelerator that helps startups grow, scale, and successfully fundraise. So over the course of last few years, we have not only helped startup in Pakistan, but we have also helped startups across the MENA region, broaderly, and we have trained more than 1,000 startups so far, and have supported all the ESOs across different regions. Currently, we have recently launched I2I Scale, which is a startup accelerator, but in a way that it is very execution focused and it is very founder driven in a sprint of 3 months. So, what it does, we have divided it into growth, scale, and fundraise tracks. So now we don't want you to shift your focus from building your startup. We want you to focus completely on the execution of that problem or stage that you have currently in your startup.
Mm-hmm.
By doing that, so for example, if you identified that your current stage at the startup is growth, we by growth I mean that if currently you have two customers and you want to go towards 10, from 10 to 100, and then 100 to 1000, we want you to execute that. We want you to help, we help you do that while focusing on creating your growth strategies in the right manner, but then also connecting you to the right coaches in a one-on-one format, and then connecting you to the to partners for business development, having product showcase with different corporates. So it helps you actually grow and execute that roadmap that we help you build for like a period of next 6 months. And for scale, it's like regional expansion. So if you are only operating in Karachi, we want you to expand beyond that towards Lahore, towards Islamabad. If you are at the right stage, you will be able to do that. And if you want to scale beyond Pakistan, so now you want to scale towards Saudi, you want to scale towards MENA, we help you connect with the right sort of partners like Astro Labs, like Hub 71, where they are not only giving you the market research that you need, because obviously once you are scaling, now you need to move towards another market. You need to have understanding of that market, the regulations it has, the social context that it has, because startups only work best if you have contextualized the solution that you're providing in the form of the problem that that local market has. So if I don't understand English, I won't you if and you are communicating in English, I won't be able to understand that, right? This is how startups work. So if my need is something else and the solution that you're offering me is the exact solution, but it's in some other format and it's not in my social context, then I won't understand that. So leveraging these sort of things is what we are helping startups with, not only with market research, with execution in terms of like partnerships with other relevant stakeholders in different markets, and then fundraising. And so in fundraising, we have an active community of investors, which is not only VCs. We have like partners like family offices, where focus is also like debt financing, grants. Focus is also like VC money, and you asked about the success stories. So before I2I scale, we closed a project with World Bank,
Oh.
which was called V-Raise. So in that program, over the course of 2 years, we have helped multiple startups, especially with a focus of on women-led businesses, because that we're also focusing on creating an inclusive and equitable startup ecosystem where the gender gap is also being closed. So 24 startups were part of that training, and out of that, 10 startups successfully raised funding. And so our focus is not only growth, scale, but also fundraise. And we are trying to have an ecosystem integrated community where we have all the relevant partners on board. But at the end of the day, we want you to execute, and this our programs are more uh, personalized. We want, we don't want you to feel that this program is not built for you. This is what our aim at I2I is. We want you to feel that this program is really, really personalized for you, helping you not only identify the problem that you are currently having, but solving that problem for you by connecting to the right coaches, having one-on-one learning calls, having mastermind sessions with peer groups, but also that product showcase and investor showcase to help you with business development and raising funds as well.
Mhm. I feel like as somebody that is has a great idea, has something they really want to work on, and then having places like ITY where they leverage from knowing really the people, the community that is based into another region, and helping you really get literally everything you would want. I feel like that is amazing, and I feel like that would be a proud moment for you guys as well to see these startups, having them at a very baby stage to actually get where they should be. I feel like that would be such a satisfying place to be in. As you are, talking about how you guys help them, get comfortable in different regions, connect them with the community, investors, and everything. There's something that I would want to know is, since you have exposure of so many startups, what are the rookie mistakes do you feel like these startups make? Because I feel like this is some question, this is what a question that I feel like अगर किसी को कोई idea भी ना, किसी ने कोई startup run भी कर रहा है, they would want to know this कि क्या ऐसी चीजें that we can avoid and just never do that, so there's a smooth way for us.
Thank you for asking that, because I feel while starting a startup, as a founder or even as a founding team member, we are all so passionate about our idea or a brainchild that we sometimes leave behind the aspect of coachability. We leave behind the aspect of like, what is my motivation? Am I open to feedback? Am I open to market? Even the feedback from market. Like, if you are not listening to what your customer is saying, and at the end of the day your market research is of no use. So I feel, as a founder, some basic things that one really needs to focus on is to identify the right customer. uh,
Okay.
this
Mm.
question, when we ask different people about, okay, different startup founders, you ask them who is your customer, and sometimes the answer is everyone. So that answer is not right. Everyone is not your customer, everyone should not be. That really closes your, you should have a narrowed approach. Okay, who exactly is my customer? What is the demographic they are coming with? What is the
Mm.
age bracket? What is their income power? What is their, are they actually, which area they are based in? So
Yeah.
right, identifying the right customer base, the customer persona, doing the
Mm.
right market research, and then building processes. It goes back to the question that we talked about earlier, that processes and systems over people approach. Your
Mm.
processes should be built in a way that it helps you scale easily. So leveraging technology comes into building processes, and
Mm.
then of course right use of talent. So sometimes hiring is a tough area, right?
Yeah.
Talent hire, but then retaining that talent is another question. Are
Mm.
you creating that culture where the right people are actually feeling that this is something they want to work at, this is something they want, this is an organization where they feel the right fit? So
Mm.
retaining that talent. So I feel, with these sort of things, and also, are you creating social impact? So an equal, you can say, priority on not only growth but also social impact that we're creating. For example, at
Mm.
I2I, our sister concern I2I Ventures, if you look at the portfolio of startups that they have invested in, you will see that the number of startups that they invested in, every startup has a social impact. So it's not just about growth and numbers and scale, and it's also about, are you creating some sort of positive impact in the community? That is
Mm.
also something that as a startup you should be focusing on. Innovation, growth, and I would say social impact are three things that
Yeah.
every founder should focus on.
Yeah, I feel like social impact is something that is very interesting. How do you make sure? So, if somebody wants to come to, I2I or any other place that they know okay, will help invest and, help them reach to their what they are fully capable of. How do you align your goals with the social impact? Because I feel like in the starting stages, even if I go to the layman approach, के idea execute करना है, will make sure market में किसी तरह आ जाए. But I wouldn't necessarily think about the social impact part. Maybe for example, I want to have some sort of food kind of startup, right? Social impact. How do you align that? How do you make sure it goes to that route?
So I personally feel that it goes back to your why. Um,
Yeah.
Motivation of starting a startup or motivation of even doing a job can be anything. It can be monetary benefit that you're getting out of it. It can be, and that is not a bad thing. That is necessarily a very good thing. Revenue at the end of the day is something your focus should be at. In startup ecosystem, we say this phrase that you should be as close to transaction as possible. So
Okay.
that's why fintechs are booming, because it's the
Mm-hmm.
business of transactions.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, I would say with social impact, it goes back to the why you are doing what you are doing. So if you started your startup with an approach that I want to solve this very problem in the community that I am in, so now the problem, what sort of problem are you solving for? For example,
Mm-hmm.
in Pakistan, we see, I will tell you an example of a very small project that a student did in
Mm-hmm.
the Google developers community. So we see that currency notes, these are not real. For example, we are still a cash-based economy majorly.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to a retail store and you are giving them some currency note and it's not the right node, and
Mm-hmm.
so he built this app where it can kind of it kind of recognize that, okay, this currency note is not an actual the real note. So
Mm-hmm.
what it does now, it helps retail stores to not get into frauds. It helps them from fraud detection. It helps them avoid and those uh, sort of
Yeah.
circumstances that come with it. So I would say social impact is always what goes back into why you are doing what you're doing, and that's completely okay if your why is different, because sometimes if your necessities are not being fulfilled, you can't go beyond your basic necessities,
Yeah.
right? So it goes back to your life stage. It goes back to
Yeah.
what why you are doing what you are doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it makes perfect sense, and I feel like sometimes you don't have to just do things well for the sake of it, because I feel like you clarified it very well. Okay, it really depends on the stage you are in, where you stand, and if monetary is, having the monetary benefit is something that is really one of your main concerns, and it will fulfill your needs, then that is something you should focus on. And I feel like along the way you will figure out a social impact. You will figure out how to socially influence positively to your society and everything. Acha, we have a question here. कि any book recommendation to learn about startup? So is there something that you learned through, or अगर book नहीं तो what did help you a lot?
Yeah, so I am a book reader, and I would say in startups you can find like tons of books, but I feel the Lean Startup is one book that I highly recommend, because it gives you that idea of how why a startup exists, and how to build that startup. So like going from zero to one, like, okay, you
Okay.
have a random idea one day, but in a few weeks how it will turn out, and the roadmap that it will have, the kind of process that it will follow. So
Mhm.
the whole strategy towards it, the whole growth towards it, I would say the Lean Startup is one book that I would highly recommend for anyone getting into into this area. And then also, like, since it's a highly adaptable area of work,
Mhm.
you have to really adapt every day. So I would really recommend to, like, considering yourself and making yourself kind of being active in the startup ecosystem. So have a look at on the incubators, accelerators, especially like Y Combinator is the best, when you can where you can have the startup school, their startup school, the
Mhm.
resources that they publish. Then we have Paul Graham essays.
Mhm.
Their website does not have a really cool sort of effect, but the kind
Yeah.
of knowledge that it has, I
Yeah.
think if you want to not only understand startup ecosystem but also understand it in a way that nobody else does, those essays
Mhm.
are really good. So
Yeah.
So I would say these are some of the resources that you can follow, and definitely communities. Communities
Yeah.
is the for knowledge sharing.
And if somebody has just joined and Sabha has just sprinkled the knowledge where the resources where you can get the knowledge from, this will be uploaded on our LinkedIn. So you didn't really miss out on anything that was important. It will be here for you to always extract this information and everything that she has told us. कि कहाँ से resources are perfect and where you can get them from. Sabha, there is something that I wanted to ask, and then we'll move to our last question since almost an hour has passed and we couldn't really pata bhi nahi chala ki how it went by, because it's so much, this session is filled with so much knowledge at this point, and it's amazing, it's amazing that it's being put out there, and through you and through this platform we're able to like ignite people with this. um so, what role does government regulation and policy have, kind of impact on hindering the growth or, accelerating the growth of a startup? तो जो policies आती हैं, regulation आती है, वो किस तरह इस चीज़ को रोकती है, बढ़ाती है? How do you tackle that? So please just let us know on that.
Yeah, so doing a startup, definitely policies and tax regulations and generally other regulations are really really key, because if you are, for example, working in web3 space, if you're working in some high tech space, especially
Yeah.
fintech, AI, regulations have a lot to do, because every market comes with its own regulation. For example, in Indonesia, if you're doing a web3 startup, it would be far more easy, because they have already accepted crypto as a commodity. They have already it is everywhere. For example, if you're working in China, and
Yeah.
when you're doing any fintech, so now they have Alipay everywhere, and you have the digital cash everywhere. So the
Mhm.
regulation aspect is definitely important and key. So that's why I say that right timing and right market, these are the two
Mhm.
things that are important for any startup. You can't be too early, you can't be too late. You will miss the opportunity, or you will have to wait for the opportunity or create that opportunity. And
Okay.
right market. So right market obviously comes with its own challenges.
Mhm.
So if you are working in a market that has the market like Indonesia, and you are in Web3 space, will be far easy to operate in. But if you're working in an emerging sort of a market where there are like regulations or bans on certain things, then you can't really operate effortlessly in that market, and you have to either create that sort of lobby in the
Mhm.
government, or have that in order to change those policies, or in order to first prove that this really works
Yeah.
and there is an impact that a country needs. So I would say government policies definitely help, and for example, in Pakistan, we have recently had seen that government has launched initiatives like where they are giving tax incentives. They are trying to simplify business registration process, because we have had
Mhm.
problems when it comes to registering your startup. So how many days it takes, what time, what effort it takes is important for a startup. And then establishing like innovation hubs. We recently saw that government,
Yeah.
that Ministry of IT and Telecommunication, they launched Pakistan Startup Fund, in order to not only help startup with growth and scale, but also give them some sort of like 30% of the VC money. So because the VC money is generally risky, so in order to minimize that risk, such initiatives really help. So definitely regulations and policies, one should have a really one should really look at what sort of market they operate in, and what regulations do they have in that particular space that they are starting a startup in.
Exactly, and I think this was very, very educational, because I feel like if you have something you really want to work on, you really want to invest your time on, maybe just take some time, maybe look into where the government is headed to, what kind of regulations do they have, what kind of policies, because at the end of the day, it does have some sort of, no matter आप किस भी field से belong करते हो, there is an impact. Even if you are a salaried class person, if you have a business, if you have a startup, if it doesn't really matter, you will have some sort of impact. So it really, really makes sense that you kind of study that. Acha, since we are heading towards the end of it, Sabah, uh, can any advice you would give to upcoming entrepreneurs and startup owners, small business owners, for them to know they should really follow this, or advice that you would want them to know that it can help them their future, and anything that they are working on currently. I think you're muted. I cannot hear you. It's fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
So,
Yep.
any aspiring entrepreneurs, especially in emerging markets like Pakistan, I feel they should really focus on not only innovation, growth in terms of revenue, in terms of profitability, but also social responsibility in equal measure. Because I feel as an emerging market, we need innovation, but we also need positive good at the same point, because there are local challenges that we have, and we should really so if you want to build a startup, you should first do your market research, identify the community that you live in, and what are the needs that need to be met. So what are the unmet needs, identify that, and then produce and tailor solutions for those particular problems and those particular needs. So at the end of the day, you are not only doing a startup for the sake of startup, but you're also offering genuine value that people
Yeah.
need. So
Yeah.
go back to your why you want to do a startup. And then
Mm.
of course, since once you start building your startup, then you need to leverage technology, then
Yeah.
you need to build processes, then you need to build right network where you're able to collaborate, where you're able to have your business grow in that sort of, and of course seeking right mentorship, finding
Yeah.
those courses that can help you, and then staying updated on the trends, and,
Yeah.
uh, and also staying adaptable, because if the market shift is happening, you need to pivot accordingly. So
Yeah.
staying updated in industry trends, and again there's this phrase that trend, so see the trend that the
Mm.
market is following, and follow that. So I think to any entrepreneur, my advice is to focus on the key elements of these key elements of the startup that you will obviously need in building.
Yes, perfect. I feel like, Sabah, you have given us so much knowledge in this little, live session we have had. There's so much that is packed in here, and I'm truly, truly grateful for you to take out your time and to, really ignite us on the topic of startup, this ecosystem. How is it in Pakistan? How is I2I helping, these startups, and how you guys are making sure that they accelerate to their full potential, they emerge in the markets that they are really hoping to get into it, and then again, your knowledge on how to, kind of get into the market that are untapped, doing your market research, figuring out your target audience. It is, a live session with so much education, and I'm so grateful for you to, give us that time. And again, for everybody that asked a lot of questions here, everybody that interacted in this live session, thank you so much for being, an amazing part of it. And again, every Thursday, I try my best. Okay, we bring you a live session that has a guest that can really, help you in a certain field, in a certain subject. And this time around, we had Saba. So, inshallah, I'll see you guys next week. And again, thank you, Saba, for being a part. And thank you, everybody, for being a part. I'll see you guys soon, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.
Okay.